Hey guys, I just wanted to do my review for The Flash Season 2 Episode 18 versus Zoom. So, basically this is the big episode. We're supposed to learn about Jay or Hunter Zolomon Zoom's origins. And the episode starts with, you know, stock footage of Barry witnessing his mom's murder when he was 10, and also as an attempt to set up like their parallels between him and Zoom, in which Hunter Zolomon, he actually watched his father, who was a war veteran, go ape shit on his wife and basically start hitting her, and then he put the helmet that he gave to Hunter on his head and murdered the mom in front of him. He was convicted. Hunter was sent to a foster home because no other living relative wanted him, and it was basically this uncaring place, and this is supposed to be how he made him into a psychopath, presumably. The next scene is they're in Keystone City, and Barry's wearing the tachyon device that we saw during his appearance on the episode of Supergirl, and he's running so fast that we do see him blip through a portal and then reappear. And then, he runs all the way to Star Labs and exclaiming that, "Oh my god, I'm back." But he says nothing about the trip, and there's like no... You would think that there'd be some kind of vague, even like an obscure reference, a dialogue that's making even an obscure reference to what happened, but it's just like... Maybe they didn't film the episode of Supergirl by the time... Maybe this episode was filmed before the actual Supergirl episode, so... I don't know. Basically, he just tells Asquith to miniaturize the device. He agrees to do it, but he doesn't want to reopen the breaches because he knows how dangerous Zoom can be. He even tries to go over to talk to Joe and convince him to talk Barry out of it, but Joe just says once Barry sets his mind to something, he's going to do it, and he ends up convincing Harry to go to help him out. And when when Joe and Wally are interacting, they're talking about how Wally's not going to be staying on campus anymore because room and board's too expensive, and Joe offers to help him out, and Wally refuses to take any money from him, and so he leaves. And when Joe mentions, "I wonder what Wally's doppelganger looked like on Earth 2," Barry asks Cisco and Harry about reverb, and they mention that he had, and Barry recalls how he couldn't just like vibe through different dimension. He can see the other dimensions. He can also shoot like energy seismic waves like out of his hand. Like he's also like Barry notes that he's manipulating manipulating the vibrations between the dimensions is how Reaver's powers work, and how he was basically, and that's how his like seismic energy blast powers were working. And he says that Cisco can be able to, if Reaver can manipulate the vibrational waves between dimensions and breach them, Cisco can reopen the breaches. And the problem is that it seems like when Cisco reopens the breaches, it seems like he opens up the plot holes that make this a really mediocre episode. And the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes me fucking angry, because one, he's able to open it up. He starts opening it up. Zoo's ready to jump through, but Cisco chickens out because he feels like the power is going to be too intoxicating and he's going to become like his evil doppelganger. Barry says that he's going to be there to support him whenever he gets a new power emerging, just like Cisco's been there for him. So he reopens it. Zoom jumps through and chases Barry throughout the city, and Barry's able to stay ahead of him, but for some reason they decide to go into the time. Team Flash decides to go into the time vault with Joe and Harry ready with guns, ready to subdue the Flash, ready to Zoom, sorry. And yet they're still standing there talking and looking at the wall or fucking wall or something, which is implied as if they're in the same room, but Barry and Zoom run into the obstacle course in which Linda was practicing posing as Dr. Light in episode 6, and they're acting like they're in the same room. They're like pointing the guns, like ready to attack him or something. They're not even looking at the monitor the iPad that Iris is holding, monitoring what's going on in there. And it seems like they're able to distract Zoom by putting up pop-up cardboard cutouts of his parents. They don't know what his fucking parents look like. How would they do they? And this is the other thing. This is going back to another thing. Once they're getting prepared to set up their plan, Caitlin has mentioned about how Jay had a doppelganger on Earth 1 named Hunter Zolomon. Harry recognizes the name. He takes out his watch and pulls out a newspaper saying he was a notorious serial killer, and he was a very infamous serial killer because serial killers are an anomaly on Earth 2, and all of a sudden he gives us the whole exposition stuff about Hunter's backstory and how after going to the foster home he grew up to be a serial killer and killed like 23 people. He put in the criminally insane asylum, and when they were giving him electroshock therapy, during one of his electroshock therapy treatments, that in an attempt to rehabilitate him, that the matter from the particle accelerator went off, and that's how he got his powers. And it's like they said back in episode 5, Harry said back in episode 5, I created Zoom and all the other metahumans on Earth 2, so it makes it sound like he would know who the fuck Zoom's real identity was. And if he was and here's the other thing, if he was such a notorious serial killer, I mean, granted he had like a long hair and a beard in his mugshot in the newspaper, but then he's running around without a mask as Jay Garrick the Flash with just the helmet and the suit which is modeled after his Hunter's father, and yet nobody would recognize like the eyes. I mean, I get that they had the whole like Clark Kent with the glasses and Superman thing, but still, it was just like the fact that they would recognize his eyes would not like. Oh my god! Why would you not recognize? Somebody should be able to fucking recognize him. Somebody. Nobody can be that dumb. I don't know what it is with DC properties that's like they can't make that connection. I mean, hell, I wear glasses. You've seen it in my videos. And I mean, granted, I've had people tell me that I look different without my glasses, but it's not like they will be like. But it's not like it won't. They won't be like, oh my god. They won't realize. They won't realize after a couple of seconds that it's me. You know. I mean, holy fuck. All right. Anyway, getting back to summarizing this. The distraction allows Barry to use the boot to subdue Jay, and that's when he starts interrogating him and just figuring and saying, you know, you could have come to us. You could have come to us. You didn't have to. We could have done everything to help you. And Hunter resorts not everything. And he's like he says that he didn't care how many people he had to kill or lives people had to use or manipulate, just as long as he was able to ensure his own survival. Like, he stopped caring about other people a long time ago. You know, family's a weakness. And this is the part where it's like they're kind of almost like chilling out. I don't know why. It's like at some point Barry could have just knocked his ass. I don't know. Barry could have just maybe like knocked his ass out and dragged him into the particle accelerator and had the same conversation like he did with the Reverse Flash in episode 11. He didn't do that. So that's why so that's why after the whole back and forth, he was able to. Zoom was able to vibrate his hand, break the boot, and essentially run off into disappear into the city. And when when the West family goes back to their house, it turns out Zoom had not only trashed the place but kidnapped Wally, and now is imprisoned in the same lair with the man in the iron mask where Jesse was. And I don't know. I get, but it's like they opened up one breach. So does that mean all the breaches are open now? I'm assuming that he only opened up one breach for. Did he move the? Oh, holy crap! Ugh. And then, but then Barry just decides that, you know what, I'm gonna give up my speed to save Wally. He doesn't deserve to be dragged into this. Cisco acts as the intermediary, basically, by vibing Jay's Hunter's helmet, and reaching out to him to Earth 2, presumably, or maybe, no, it's gotta be Earth 2, but anyway. Saying that they agree to his terms. Zoom brings Wally to Star Labs, and they're able to. And Joe gives him his car keys and tells him to run, and yet everybody's just kind of chilling out in the lab and just like waiting for Wells to use his speed siphon, that device that he used in Fastlane to steal Barry's speed last time, and it's like Zoom let Wally go first. He has no leverage anymore. They have every reason to subdue him. Again, Barry can knock his ass out. He still presumably has the tachyon device under his emblem. He can still outrun Zoom. He can punch his ass out, put him in the pipeline, but yet everybody acts like so honorable about it, and Barry's running on the treadmill, and he gives up 100% of his speed, and he's back to normal. But this is not before Hunter explains how he's able to be in two places at once, like how is he still alive. They watched him die at the end of Escape from Earth 2. He says, oh, he went back and he couldn't be in two places at once. He had to go back in time and grab a time remnant, convince the time remnant to let Zoom murder him as part of a grander scheme. And so I guess it's from like another timeline, presumably. So basically, I guess Jay was. So there's an alternate timeline where Jay did get superpowers on Earth 1. So there may have been like two Flashes instead, and maybe is alternate Earth or an alternate. This is why, I mean, my friends thought that, time travel was going to be involved with this whole stuff, but not in the way, I don't think in the way that I would have imagined or the way that they would have imagined, because this stuff is not meshing well together, and the more I think about it, the more it kind of makes my head hurt. And I mean, you would think if he got a version of himself from the past, wouldn't killing him, the time remnant, kill himself? Unless it's like, works like, I don't know, in the comic books, there's a comic book called Out of Time, in which, where a future version of Barry tried to kill his past self, but he said that the Speed Force would have protected him because he would have been replacing his past self and living in that timeline, and the ripple, it would have not been affected by the ripple effect, I guess, or because Zoom was on Earth 2 at the time, and the time remnant was on Earth 1, that maybe the ripple effect wouldn't affect him, or something like that. That's the most sense I can make out of it. But like I said, this is so. I can't believe somebody got paid to write this shit. This is so dumb. And just as Zoom is about to kill a powerless Barry, Caitlin says, if there's any part of you that's any humanity left, you know, you won't kill him, you won't kill Barry. And she was right before, there is some humanity because of the fact that he talks about why were you running around masquerading as a hero, and Hunter says to give people hope and then rip it away from them. It was just funny to him. Like, he just thought it's so fun pretending to be a hero, and then when Caitlin says you're no hero, you're just a monster, that kind of hits Hunter close to home, because those are Hunter's last words, Hunter's mother's last words to Hunter's father James before she was shot. So then ultimately he instead of killing Barry, he decides to kidnap Caitlin, and it seems like this episode was like almost attempting to turn this version of Zoom into I guess like their version of Grant Ward from Agents of Shield, but it just seemed like the backstory just felt so clunky, and yeah, like, you gave him a sympathetic backstory, but it just didn't feel like it matched up with like his motives, or like made him like any sympathetic. It's like, oh, I didn't have any parents, so now I'm just gonna become like a psychopathic murderer. Oh, you know, I really enjoyed this when I first watched it, and the more I think about it, like I said, it just kind of pisses me off. Like, I can't believe somebody should be like fired for like writing this crap. Like, I can't believe somebody got paid to write this. I mean, oh, dude. All right, I'm done. I'm more. I just gotta stop right now. You know, how do you guys feel about the episode? Did you have like gripes with it? Did you enjoy it in spite of the flaws? Please let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon.